Okay, beacons in Factorio are a pretty standard mid to late game structure that will distribute module effects over all nearby manufacturing, which is generous and helpful. And the 248K mod throws in 3 tiers of its own beacons for kind of the same role. The largest does take some setup. You've got to do some research. We're not going to talk about how to make the cores or how much electricity they need or how to make the different fluids. There's a bit of setup. But then you get these things, which are a 4x4 beacon with an effect radius of 5 that distributes 3 times the module effects of a regular vanilla beacon. So yeah, we can do some wild things with this. We're going to have like a tier list of different crazy 248K builds we can do relative to a vanilla beacon baseline. But let's start with a regular vanilla beacon baseline. We've got like columns of beacons and assemblers and more beacons, and here each beacon is hitting 8 assemblers because they're slightly offset, and then also each assembler is being hit by 8 beacons. So the effect source is 12, it's counting the 4 modules inside the assembler and then the 8 beacons that all hit this assembler, even though each beacon has 2 modules in it, but don't worry about that, its effect source is 12. And this gets us to a crafting speed of 5.5, which is going to be one of the main things we're looking at. How much throughput can we cram into any particular building or like spatial footprint or any of that. This kind of linear pattern, you often need to belt braid your inputs if you're looking at anything more complicated than the RCU's recipe. But yeah, that's vanilla baseline number 1. Vanilla baseline number 2 is this kind of 12 module or 12 beacon pattern. The exact way you line up these beacons is often like it's one of the major design constraints. You've got to also figure out how to get in and out all of the things you need for these assemblers, which might be trickier if you also need fluids, or you need like a lot of copper, or you need, like, this is the 248K mod purple science icon. If you're doing rail and direct insertion things, yeah, quite a design challenge to figure out how to get your 12 beacons around your assembler and also get all the rest of the plumbing done as well. But 12 beacons is the best you can do in vanilla, and you end up with crafting speed 8 with all of the productivity. Yeah, you can do more around refineries because the buildings are a different size, but chem plants and assemblers, the best you can do is 12 beacons. And yeah, also some of these beacons are only hitting 2 assemblers. Like the middle one is hitting more than that, that's nice, but I'm kind of in the habit of calling this a 12-2 build because each assembler gets 12 beacons and then some of the beacons only hit 2 assemblers. And also in the 248K world, we are limited by the total number of beacons we have, which we have to extend with research. And so having a beacon that only hits 2 assemblers, not super great value. So that's the second vanilla baseline, a 12-2 build with a crafting speed of 8. The third baseline is with the KI3 modules, and the idea is, well, what happens if we just smash a bunch of beacons in a row, smash a bunch of assemblers in a row, not really think about the layout? How good does this immediately start off? And we've got a beacon which is hitting 12 different assemblers, which is pretty good. And these assemblers are also, yeah, we could have more beacons on the other side if we wanted. Even these, we've still got some efficiency beacons, or some efficiency modules in this beacon as well for historical power grid reasons. And there's also a 248K tech that can double the effectiveness of these beacons, so they're kind of only a third as strong as we could have them. Yeah, but already these are up to crafting speed 5.5 just from the buildings we've got here, which is already like that's comparable to the other RCUs build we looked at. These are also 5.5, and so yeah, we're going to be able to do a lot better. And also because of the larger effect radius, it's a whole lot easier to jump these beacon effects over more belts in, so we don't have the belt weaving issues that we used to. So these are going to be the 3 tiers, or the 3 baseline builds of the baseline tier of the builds we're looking at today. And next we're going to look at a build that wasn't even designed for KI3 beacons at all. This is the yellow science in the 248K mod. A lot of these recipes are similar, but with maybe one extra ingredient. So we've got the electric engines that also require gold in addition to standard stuff. We've got the yellow science that also requires neodymium, I think it's called, in addition to the regular stuff. And so this was the first build we put together. I think I originally left this space for normal beacons, and then a KI3 beacon happened to fit, and also happens to meet the baseline effectiveness of 12 assemblers on this beacon. So that's pretty nice. So we've got baseline effectiveness, we've got a direct insertion pattern, couldn't fit one over here. I don't think it was even worth fitting one over here because the yellow science didn't need to be boosted that much. It ended up out of sequence with the drone parts, and also some of these guys aren't even running. So I think because of that, we're going to put this on the not very good but hack it together, it'll be fine tier of this tier list. So yeah, moving along. This one isn't running because I wanted to power it on and watch all the things go through because, yeah, this one we'll talk about later. This bit down here is also a kind of linear setup. I think this is one of the first builds I designed for beacons in this run. We've got some red science, we've got some green science, pretty standard inputs to these sciences. A lot of the 248K recipes are, yeah, things you more or less expect. Actually, we don't need this beacon. We can balance. We need slightly more manufacturing of green science than red science. We can balance that with number of assemblers. Also, we can balance it with number of beacons. I think in the run, this section is longer because we've got a 10 times science multiplier in this run, so we just need a lot of stuff. So yeah, baseline effectiveness down here, that's nice. These buildings already on crafting speed 6.7. These ones are on 8. Yeah, depending on exactly how far we are out of the build, but 8 is also as good as we could do in vanilla when we were surrounding an assembler with beacons deliberately to boost that assembler. And here we're still doing nice compact tiling builds of lots of assemblers. And then over here we've got one beacon hitting 16 different assemblers, which is kinda wild. Yeah, there's some weird moduling over here for ratio reasons, and also this isn't a tiling build. This isn't a build. We would have to copy this build rather than tile it. There's like weird belt weaving stuff up here, so the inserters are going out one way and the belts are going out the other way, and then doubling back underneath to join with the inserters to go into the green science. Overall, pretty happy with this though. This is, yeah, 16 is starting to get into a decent number of assemblers that we're hitting with just one beacon. Nice and compact. I'm going to put this on the belt weaving tier of my 248K beacon build tier list. So yeah, pretty happy with that. We'll move on. There are, oh yeah, some other oil processing and smelting options that the 248K module provides. But because, like, it's tricky, especially with all the fluid inputs, to get a decent number of these beacons, or a decent number of buildings around one beacon, and because I'm limited on beacon counts, I didn't bother. So these guys, all the oil processing, all the fancy smelting is on the disappointed and sadly left out tier of the beacon build tier list. But a crazy thing we can do is get stuck on stuff, and then, if we've got a 4x4 beacon with an effect radius of 5, we can jump this effect radius over another beacon into buildings on the other side. So all of these labs are being hit by these two beacons in the middle. This is also, yeah, it happens to perfectly line up with substation width. So this is also just a getting stuck on things tier list. This is just a tiling build that we can just extend. It's bot fed, which was, you know, easier than figuring out how to get all the belts in. And then we've got some, yeah, crazy research speed, which is also tied to lab speed research. That's going to be, we're going to put this in the annoying to analyze tier of the tier list. Maybe we put it in the tileable builds tier of the tier list. Yeah, sure. And then after that, the next thing to look at was these sort of direct insertion builds. Where are the places I can put some nice beacons on these direct insertion builds? Because we do need a lot of green chips. Even in the 248K world, we need a lot of green chips. So how many beacons can I get in here, and can I make some nice tiling builds? And the answer to that was this monstrosity, which is, yeah, each of these beacons hits 24 assemblers, which is good beacon value when I'm limited on beacon value. It goes past so fast that these are infinity chests just so that the bots aren't flying all around and we can actually look at the build. But yeah, this it's not I was trying to figure out how to get enough belts in here, and there wasn't enough space to get enough belts to get the throughput that these things needed, because these are also being, like, this assembler here is hit by 3 beacons, and we're already on speed 4.25, and there's also no space in here to get power poles, and so we're doing a substation thing again. And yeah, these inserters aren't swinging at full speed, but also these beacons aren't at full capacity yet. So I don't even know that I want more beacons in here at all, because I'll end up inserter bottlenecked when I upgrade the beacons. But also, more beacons around the outside wouldn't really do all that much, because we would boost the chips but not the coils, and still then be coil limited. So yeah, and again, a tiling build also happens to tile with the width of the substation. So yeah, more bot-fed builds. We're going to put this in the inserter bottleneck tier of the beacon build tier list, because it's going to be inserter bottlenecked. Moving on from that, yeah, the 248K mod gives us a bunch of new stuff to build, but it also still needs us to build, with very similar and slightly different recipes, a lot of the same stuff. So blue chips, we've got to fit acid in here as well, and we're also doing a bot build thing where we've subbed the logistics chests out for an infinity chest, so we don't have bots flying around the place, and also so I didn't have to sever all these networks. And yeah, this is a pattern where some of these beacons are hitting 16 assemblers, and some of them are hitting 12, and 12 is still the baseline, and 16 is real nice. And then some of these assemblers are being hit by 6 beacons, and some by 8, with the other module effects being the modules inside the assemblers. And so even the ones that are only hit by 6 modules are the largest crafting speed we can get in vanilla when we're building specifically for one assembler, and we've also got more than that right next to it, and it's like still quite a compact build. And yeah, it goes by so fast that I had to have... Okay, so they're currently kind of paused, but when we upgrade beacons, I think I figured out that I needed green chips and multiple chests, because one stack inserter of green chips wasn't keeping up with how fast these things were going. So I think that also goes in the inserter bottleneck tier of my tier list. And this is also, all of these ones are just big tiling builds. We can smack more in here when we need more blue chips. I mean, we're always going to need more blue chips. We need them for module upgrades and rocket launchers and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, then the next thing that is a bit more trickier to figure out exactly how much of the stuff I want and get stuck on things is, yeah, this version of a very similar thing where we don't have the pipe in the middle, because this is a build for, I mean, to be honest, almost anything really. If you've got a bunch of assemblers that just need solid products and you're doing this with bot feeding, you can just have all these request chests request different things. And yeah, we can make some yellow science over here, we can make the flying robot frames, we can have lubricant kind of on the outside to get us some electric engines, we can make all the things we need just in this one kind of bot-fed area, and each beacon hits 16 assemblers, and each assembler is hit by 8 beacons. And this gets us, yeah, speed 10.5 with all these productivity modules. We could even do furnaces. Okay, the assemblers without productivity modules in them are even faster. That's always going to be the case. But, you know, maybe we could do purple science in here as well. Figuring out how to get the rail in here is going to be a bit more of a mess. And then this build is also just a tiling build. If we want more of this stuff, then we can just... Where does it go? It goes here. We can just continue to extend this. We can get as large as we want with this. And so I think we're going to put this on the cancer tier of the beacon build tier list, because this thing will just grow. Maybe you need more bots, maybe it's going to be interesting figuring out exactly how you need to deliver all the things into this logistics network. But yeah, this is some crazy stuff. 16 beacons, 16 assemblers per beacon in just a tiling pattern. Cool, great, nice things. Getting stuck on things tier list. After that, yeah, rocket fuel. A very similar... This is actually the vanilla recipe as well, yeah. I realized that... Oh wow, this has stopped because these chests are full, because everything has gone past so hard that these chests have filled up in the time we've been talking about it. Yeah, this is another pattern with the row of pipes in between assemblers parallel to the column of beacons, and this means that every beacon here is hitting 16 assemblers. And also each assembler is being hit by 8 beacons. So this is a 16.8 build with fluids, with bot-fed stuff in between. That is all kind of madness. And also, again, a tiling build. So we can put as much of this stuff in here as we need, and we do need to launch a lot of rockets. So we will be doing a lot of this stuff. I think we're going to put this on the cancer tier of the beacon tier list. So moving on from that pattern, which I quite like, I realized that these things didn't even need to be bot fed at all. We can actually belt weave. We've got to be kind of tricky with the blue belt and the red belt. I think the red could be yellow, but the blue kind of has to be here to be able to jump it past the other belts and the beacons. But we can do this. Yeah, 8 beacons per assembler, total of effect sources 12, crafting speed 10.5. Each beacon hitting 16 assemblers, which is, okay, less for the ones on the outside, but sure. Good beacon value, good build value, not even with bots, just with belt weaving, although this is going to be tricky for any recipe that isn't RCUs, but we do need a lot of RCUs. And yeah, bearing in mind that the best we can do in vanilla is a craft speed of 8, and it takes, about this size, maybe slightly less because we don't have all that much to plug in, but we could get maybe 9 assemblers at craft speed 8 in vanilla in the same space that in 248K tier 3 module world we can fit 36 assemblers, all of speed 10.5. So that's pretty wild. I mean, we do need to launch more rockets, we've got to do more stuff, but that is a thing that's getting kind of crazy. And then I wondered, well, what about this kind of thing in 248K world? If we just had one assembler or one building that we wanted to beacon as hard as we can, first of all, what would that look like? Second of all, are there any recipes that would actually benefit from that kind of speed and just not be inserter bottlenecked? And for the answer for that, we've got this Covarex recipe that takes 100 seconds and doesn't require all that many items. And we're not going to talk about this recipe particularly. It's a big deal, and this is probably worth doing. But the beacon question is, we've got 8 beacons here and another 8 beacons here that are all hitting this one centrifuge for a total of 18 effect sources, counting the 2 modules inside the assembler. And so we're at crafting speed 15.6 for a centrifuge with 2 modules that each take 70% speed off. So that's pretty wild. And these are also not even beacons at full capacity yet, because we've still got efficiency modules in here. We haven't got other techs that boost these beacons. Each of these 16 beacons is really 3 vanilla beacons worth of effects. So this is like putting 48 vanilla beacon effects into one centrifuge. So that is pretty wild. I'm going to put this on the pretty wild tier of this 248 tier 3 beacon tier list. So yeah, did some pretty wild things. I think this is probably as silly as it will get, but this is also a tiling thing. Like, this can just keep going. I mean, I don't have the recipe unlocked because I editor moded some of this. But yeah, for more crazy build shenanigans, I guess tune into my 248K Ribbon World 10 times science multiplier run. I'm trying to figure out why these bots aren't using these other storage boxes, but like, whatever, I guess it's fine. Normal bots things being silly. Yeah, good times, lots of beacons, going hard.